Hello, this is Nick from Breake Games. It's been a while since I've actually done a review of any of the things that have come my way. But earlier this year, I actually backed a bunch of different Kickstarters for different things, and all of them have started piling up at my house, and it's about time that I started reading through them. Today, I'm actually going to start with Ghostlike Crime. Ghostlike Crime is a DCC zine, role-playing game zine of modern weirdness. Inside you'll find paranormal perils, cryptid terrors, new classes, and more. So Ghostlike Crime is a setting for DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics, that takes you into a modern realm. And instead of a dungeon crawler, it takes elements of everything that you can think of, from X-Files to Repo Man to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and puts it all into one unique setting. So let's talk about it. I'm going to open this up, and so it starts off, we look at, it's by a person by the name of Kane Cathain, and I want to talk about that for a second. I don't know Kane Cathain, but I do know that as soon as I saw that this was a gaming product created by another old punk rocker, I immediately was intrigued. The subject matter was interesting to begin with, but on top of that, this being by somebody who was also tied to punk and was drawing from punk influences, it made me really excited. And then on the Kickstarter, it also mentioned that Mike Bukowski was one of the artists, and as somebody who was putting out records in the early 2000s, I got really excited by this. Mike Bukowski did artwork for bands like Outbreak, About to Snap, a bunch of other bands, including a record that I put out by a band called Crucial Attack. So I saw that Michael Bukowski was attached to this, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to check this out. So I backed the Kickstarter, and let's go into what's in the content. So what is Ghostlike Crime? Creating a character, occupations, classes, the Scrapper, the Paratechnologist, team concepts, equipment, adventure, a Hellish Commute, another adventure called Cathode, Casualty, and a third adventure called Unstoppable Killing Machine. Finally, it ends with some monsters, etc. So as I said, Ghostlike Crime is a game that takes the DCC rules and applies it to a modern setting. Very, depending on where you go with it, I could see trying to emulate the content of anything from William S. Burroughs novels to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So what's different about it? I want to talk about that for a second. So in the normal DCC RPG, you've got very traditional D&D classes, and some of those still make an appearance here. The warrior, the thief, and the halfling, which is the halfling is changed over to the half pint. So think of the streetwise kid that's in all sorts of movies from the 80s and the like, is pulled in. And then there are new character classes that are listed. So there's no typical cleric or wizard or what have you. And all of the other demi-human races from DCC RPG do not make an appearance. The other thing is that it does still use the zero-level funnel concept, but obviously there's going to be a whole new list of occupations based upon this modern setting. So one of the things that's important to understand about Kane's unique take on modern weirdness is that the controllers of magic are the cabals of the corporatocracy. So the cabals of the corporatocracy hoard all of the magic, and any other magic that the player characters control is more random and weird. So essentially, the cabals of the corporatocracy, they all fight over the magic that exists in the world and the artifacts that control it. And they sort of cannibalize each other. But it is in these battles between the cabals of the corporatocracy that often the rifts in our reality get torn, and monsters get pulled forth into our world. So, in that sense, there is definitely a like I just watched Cloverfield the other night, and there was definitely one of the Cloverfield movies. I can't remember what it was called, but a little bit of that type of thing going on. But this gives a perfect reason for a very strong Monster of the Week, X-Files or Buffy the Vampire Slayer type of vibe to go on. So the powers that be, the monsters, the masses. So it talks about, it sets up the setting, but the important thing is that you are the heroes or the anti-heroes. Your adventurers are monster hunters or defenders of humanity from the paranormal threats. Not a part of any government program or the like, but an autonomous group that works together against that which can destroy the masses. They are the nail that sticks up, heroes that fight back. And the other thing is that unlike Dungeon Crawl Classics, where all of the magic comes forth from patrons, which are basically the gods, there are no patrons and no masters in Ghostlike Crime. So, goes into creating a character. Creating a character is very similar to standard DCC, except for that when you roll for your occupation, it's something a little bit different. And then also, instead of lucky signs, there's something called the lucky trinket. And so each person has a lucky trinket that gives them some sort of bonus in the game. So when we go into the occupations, as you would expect from a modern setting, but really drawing off of all sorts of 70s, 80s, and 90s, like teen movies and Monster of the Week type horror. There are everything from the bike courier to the park ranger to bikers and skaters, street toughs and cab drivers. It's like looking at this list of occupations, it made me think of, even things like Escape from New York. And if you wanted to, instead of being the standard government and post-apoc type setting, you did it something a little bit more paranormal. All of these occupations, I feel like, could be dropped straight into something like that. So roll a d66, get your occupation, and then you get your weapons for your 0 level characters. And your weapons are essentially the type of stuff that you would find laying around the house or in your garage, which is really great for a modern setting. So you've got your kitchen knife, a sturdy fountain pen, box cutter, to things like a wooden baseball bat, aluminum baseball bat, a table leg, and a hockey stick, tire knocker, and a cast iron skillet. I also could see if somebody wanted to play this game with miniatures, pretty much the Zombicide miniatures from Cool Mini or not. You could basically drop any of those models into this game and they would fit. So then from the weapons, we go into the lucky trinkets. And so with the lucky trinkets, you got the action figure, fingerless gloves, sunglasses, roll of quarters. And as you can see, when just like in Dungeon Crawl Classics, where the lucky sign gives you different bonuses, the action figure gives you a bonus on all attack rolls. Fingerless gloves gives you a bonus on all melee attacks. Fuzzy dice attack rolls while in vehicles. So all of these, the studded jean jacket gives you a bonus to damage rolls. And so, also, I just have to note, Dropdead is awesome, and the fact that they threw in a Dropdead lighter makes me happy. If you haven't listened to Dropdead, definitely listen to Dropdead. So, that being said, so the list of trinkets goes on, and they, as I said, emulate the lucky signs from Dungeon Crawl Classics. So then classes new and old. Talks about any differences that exist between the warrior and the thief, between the two settings, and explains that the halfling has been changed into the half pint, which is a kid adventurer and still the rolling ball of death we adore. Halflings are a pretty good class in Dungeon Crawl Classics. So, and the half pints have access to their own occupations: junior detective, tinkerer, skate rat, etc. So, what you would expect from an 80s movie. So then there's a couple of unique classes. Oop, I got a little off center. There's a couple of unique classes. One of them is a scrapper. And a scrapper is a wizard of sorts. Every movie that you can think of that has a weird, like savant type character that is, you know, a homeless guy or a weird clerk in a quirky store. That type of character is represented here through the scrapper, and the scrapper uses an artifact in order to generate their magic. So, for example, if they have fingerless gloves, they have access to chill touch. So the scrapper channels their magic through an artifact. So it seems like a much more limited wizard of sorts, but I haven't read through all of the details. So now the Paratechnologist seems a little bit more obvious as to what it is. The Paratechnologist is definitely like a Ghostbuster / mad scientist type character. They use weird science in order to create magic-like effects. They can jury rig all manner of different types of bits of science, wild, weird science, in order to create different game effects that are similar to magic. So you've got access to the Ecto Flare, the healing automated Locust 9000. So there's a whole bunch of weird science devices that are listed in here. And so we get through the kill switch, magnetic briefcase, light emitting disruptors, the fashionable plasma ball, and X-ray specs. And X-ray specs, there's definitely a tongue-in-cheek thing here. The X-ray specs are thick framed glasses with swirling pattern over the eyes. And just like in DCC, you make a D20 roll, like you're casting casting a magic spell, and if you get a 12 or above, then you get into the effects of that particular thing. So all of their magic is through weird science items. Then we get into team concepts. Now here's where I think that it's a cool idea. It gives people some guidance, but I think people would be able to come up with a team concept on their own. It's a random roll chart, and you can be the Alpha Team or Monster Hunters, Revolutionaries, Scientific Method, Children of the Stars, the Malcontent, the Freaks. The Freaks don't fit into society. They are outliers just by being where difference is silenced. They are the voice and the haven. So, it can give you some guidance, but honestly, when I got to the zero level funnel, having a team concept going into the zero level funnel that's presented here, I don't think really benefited the scenario, but maybe that's just me. So after the team concepts, then we get into equipment. Now, as I said, the equipment, a lot of it is the type of stuff that you would find in a typical garage. I'm going to move this off to the side for a second to show this, which I think is fantastic. I'm not sure why this was kept as a separate thing. It looks like an ad, but your Harbinger fight tools, weapons and armor, light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, extreme armor. So I think this was a really cool and clever little handout that comes in, the little sale paper, sale circular, and on the other side for weapons and armor, we've got improvised blades, small blades, large blades, two-handed blades, and it gives explanations of what falls under that. So like under a heavy club, crowbars, fire pokers, lead pipes, all those all qualify as being heavy clubs. So it gives you some guidance, while at the same time having a very cool sale paper that comes in the book. In addition to the zine, also came with this little poster that says "Careless Magic Costs Lives." Little tentacle coming out there. I like it. It breaks down the equipment, gives the damage and ranges and what have you. I do think it's a little weird that Kane chose to change out so many other things, but left gold pieces. I thought gold pieces was a strange currency for a modern setting, but whatever. I guess it does make it simple. And so then we get into the adventures that are presented in the zine, and there's 3 adventures, but they are, to be honest, they're very lean. A Hellish Commute, which is the 0 level funnel. It's got 8 encounters. It's very linear, but I don't feel like the encounters are that well connected, other than the fact that they happen in a subway. When we were talking about rolling for team concept a few pages back, it's like this group is thrown together all because they are all on the same train car when the subway car goes off the rails. So, without giving any spoilers to this 0 level funnel, I love all of the concepts that are in here, and I think that a lot of the encounters really showcase what you can do with Ghostlike crime, but I don't feel that they make for a very good story. I think that I would use this to create, give ideas to create my own adventures, but I don't know that I would run it as is. Then we go into, there is a first level adventure called Cathode Casualty, and Cathode Casualty, I feel, runs into the same problems. It is really, it's a first level adventure that's supposed to take 2 sessions, but it is, 5 encounters? 6 encounters. Little Mike Bukowski art there. And then a little more Mike Bukowski art there. And then finally, the adventure, or the zine ends with monsters, anomalies, and ill-advised creations. And there's just 6 different monsters. I think it was 6, yeah. 6 different monsters in order to give you some ideas of things that you could use as monsters for different plots that you could throw into the Ghostlike crime setting. And then finally, a little bit of a fluffy piece, and then it ends with your open gaming license. So, I definitely am really excited that I backed this. I think that even though I think the adventures are just a little too open for me and a little too random, I do think that the setting, it could be a lot of fun to run people through a linked Monster of the Week type of game using this content. I really hope that Kane expands it further because there's a lot of possibilities here that I think can be tapped into. I don't know if it is currently available. If it is, I will post the link to however you can get it. Ghostlike Crime. This is a Halloween 2019, and I thought it was a great way to start doing some reviews again. So, I hope you enjoyed that, and talk to you soon.